What's up, everyone? Jason Gilbo here, taking a look at some stacks for Tuesday's MLB slate. We got a big one, 15 games. Overall, I mean, a lot of decent options. We got Bronson Arroyo on the hill, so I mean, definitely stacking opportunities there. Not a lot of aces, a lot of chance where you can get creative and do some different things. So, definitely a good stacking night. Definitely a good night where we should see a lot of runs, a lot of high totals. First one here first, Chicago and New York, Luis Severino versus Miguel Gonzalez. Not looking to stack against Severino. On the other side, Miguel Gonzalez, I know Yankees stack really paid off last night. Look at Miguel Gonzalez, fairly average against lefties, 307 WOBA allowed. Righties hit him a little bit better. Overall, though, I mean, this is a guy I probably would rather take some one-offs with instead of a full stack. In that ballpark, I think there's definitely some home run power, and depending on how that lineup shakes out as far as what the Yankees do with it, it puts it in play. But I think it's just more of a one-off game, two-off game than anything. Boston and Toronto, Brian Johnson versus Marcus Stroman. Not really looking to pick on Marcus Stroman with a full stack, especially at the Boston prices. Not that they're bad. I mean, Pedroia and Benintendi are both under 4K, but Betts is always a pricey guy, especially with the pitching going tonight. Not really looking to stack the Sox. As far as Toronto goes, I mean, Brian Johnson's a guy who's just never been able to crack the major leagues, has made a few starts here and there, average lefty at best. I mean, stacking Toronto right now is it's not paying off. I don't like the lineup. I think with with Josh Donaldson out, it just creates a whole different dynamic. I mean, I like Bautista. I like Kendrys Morales. Bautista's a boomer bust guy. Kendrys Morales hit lefties very well. Had one of the highest hard contact rate against southpaws in the league last season. Troy Tulowitzki, I just feel like this is more once again a one-off, two-off game because I'm not a big fan of using Kevin Pillar up front. Steve Pearce has been off to an awful start. I mean, Toronto's been by far one of the worst offenses to start this season. So, could the stack pay off? Yes. I'm not going to knock it. I'm not going to knock anyone who does it. But for me, I'm just kind of off the limbs. I think it's just one of a one-off thing, two-off right now. Baltimore, Cincinnati, Bronson Arroyo versus Kevin Gausman. Kevin Gausman, not a guy that I'm looking to stack against. But Bronson Arroyo, you can certainly fire away here. Adam Jones, Manny Machado, Chris Davis, Mark Trumbo. It's expensive. It definitely is, especially on DraftKings. FanDuel, you get a little bit at ease. Chris Davis at 3.3, Trumbo at 3.6, Jones at 3.6. It's not bad, but it is one of the pricier stacks, as it should be. In that ballpark against Bronson Arroyo, Vegas has him for over 5 runs already. Certainly look, you can fire away. I'm definitely okay with doing that. Tigers, Rays, no stacking potential here with either team. Michael Fulmer, obviously a guy I'm looking to use tonight. Menendez is a guy who I'm not a fan of, but in that ballpark, I'm not a big fan of stacking teams either. Phillies and Mets, Zach Eflin versus Zach Wheeler. Mets just a modest 4.5 run total, or sorry, 4.25 run total. Back at Citi Field, you look at Eflin though. I mean, last year's small sample size, 388 WOBA to lefties, 2.76 home runs per 9, 35% hard contact rate. Some of these Mets are swinging the bat really well. I mean, Jay Bruce is up to a solid start with a couple of homers. As Drupal Cabrera. Obviously, Yoenis Cespedes. I mean, dude's been hitting home runs left and right. Curtis Granderson's really cheap. I mean, I don't think the Mets are a bad stack tonight. I think they're going to get overlooked, especially on a 15-game slate. Citi Field, the weather, it's not particularly thrilling, which is probably the only downgrade here. But overall, I can definitely see a stack working out. Definitely can see the one-offs too. As far as the Mets go, I mean, you can work and do different things. You can start it off with Cabrera and go to a Walker or Duda. I'm certainly okay with that. We've seen the back half of that lineup really come through, but I'd rather stick with the front and the middle. So I think the Mets are certainly in play. Phillies, not a stackable team. Not that Zach Wheeler is all the way back yet, but obviously the blow potential is not really there. Washington and Atlanta, Mike Foltynewicz versus Max Scherzer. Look at Foltynewicz. I mean, this guy's kind of figured things out here over the last few years. Velocity was up. Still has a little bit of issues against lefties. I mean, 1.37 horns per 9, which is where you're kind of, always looking at against Washington. Definitely just a one-off, two-off team, not really a full stack. I'm not really getting in on Eaton or Rendon tonight, and not stacking against Max Scherzer. Not that the Braves have actually had tough timing in Scherzer, but obviously the full stack is not really worth anything. Jimmy Nelson versus Brett Anderson. Definitely could be some stacking potential here with the wins. Looks like we got 11 miles blowing out. Vegas has jumped these totals a little bit, especially for the Cubs. Jimmy Nelson's off to a good start this year. I'm still not buying it. I'm not a big Jimmy Nelson guy. But overall, I mean, I think the Cubs are coming a little bit expensive for me, especially on DraftKings. FanDuel, you might be able to get away with it depending on who you go with pitching. These stacks are in play because, I mean, we have guys like Triggs, we have guys like Severino, that are fairly cheap, and you can use them as SP2. So, I mean, you can still get stacks and get some decent pitching. So, just because I say they're expensive, they're not off use. Cubs, projected for nearly 5.5 runs. This offense is still going to come around. Curious to see if people keep buying in night in and night out, knowing the fact that they have been a more bust team than boom. And on the Brewers side, against the lefty, I obviously like them a lot more. You look at Brett Anderson. I mean, for the most part, it's just not a guy that I'm looking to really stack against. I mean, I can definitely see some one-offs here, like a Braun, like a Villar, Hernan Perez, I'm okay with. Domingo Santana. I mean, it's just going to be one of those things. I see how the lineup puts out. I mean, Eric Thames might be hitting second still. This guy's been on an absolute tear. It's one of those ones where I'm kind of on the hinge of a borderline stack or just kind of taking ones and twos off of that lineup. So right now, I think you definitely can stack the Brewers. I mean, look at Brett Anderson, a ground ball pitcher though, but can certainly give it the one ball. If the wind's blowing out, you can obviously give him a big bump, which it is a little bit right now, but not to an extreme degree. So both stacks are certainly in play. Cleveland, Minnesota, this is definitely an area where you can get some stacking opportunities really on both sides. Starting with the Indian side, you look at Phil Hughes, one of the worst pitchers on the slate, 3.35 wOBA to righty since last year, 2.01 home runs per 9. You look at lefties, 385 wOBA allowed. This is all in a smaller sample size given Hughes' injury, but I'm still not buying the fact that he's just going to turn it around. Indians, 4.7 run total on the road there in Minnesota. Once again, weather ballpark, not terrific, but still worth a look this time of year. And against Josh Tomlin, I think this is where we can get a little bit creative and get a little bit sneaky. You look at Tomlin, off to a bad start this year. This guy is not a good pitcher. Has always kind of outperformed his ERA estimators, has gotten away with a lot. And going back, I mean, reverse splits pitcher, 366 wOBA to righties, 2.12 home runs per 9. And against lefties, I mean, the wOBA is down to 295, but still a 1.60 home runs per 9, 4.51 FIP, and also a 36% ground ball rate, 36% hard contact rate. So, definitely don't mind stacking guys like Brian Dozier, Max Kepler, Miguel Sano, Robbie Grossman. Joe Mauer, man, he freaking screws up the stack every time. Not a guy that I'm looking to use at first base on any given night, given that his upside is basically none. And on the Indian side, I mean, you can always work with 1 through 6 there. Given the fact that Hughes struggles, has struggled to get a little bit more with lefties. Obviously, Santana would get a little bit more of a bump. He's been playing well to start the year too. Ricky Nolasco versus Joe Musgrove in Houston. Carlos Correa sat out last night. We have a chance for a little bit of a value stack here if we get like Beltran back up. Brian McCann maybe moves up a little bit. Josh Reddick moved up to the 2 spot. So, I mean, I'm okay with stacking against Nolasco. Houston's been another one of those teams where they're bound to come around eventually. The offense will start to get going. You look at Nolasco, average against lefties. Righties is where he did get hit hard a little bit. 330 wOBA, 1.36 home runs per 9. In that ballpark, pretty friendly. One of the warmer spots, so definitely getting an advantage there. As far as the Angels go, not really looking to stack here. Not particularly thrilling. It's nothing ever more than just really the core 3 of Pujols, Calhoun, and Trout. Giants, Royals, Jason Hamill versus Matt Cain. I feel like the Royals here, 4.8 run total. It's one of the higher ones on the night. I'm not quite in on them, on a full game slate. I know Matt Cain's bad, has been bad, but so is this Royals offense. I mean, I think Moustakas is a reasonable play. Salvador Perez is a reasonable play, but for me, that's about it here. On the Giants side of things, I just don't think they're really stackable right now. This ballpark still isn't the best, so I'm kind of staying away from that one as a stack. Same with this one here, Pirates and Cardinals. Not really looking to stack anyone here. Rangers A's next. Andrew Tricks versus Yu Darvish. One of the lowest totals on the night for both sides. I'm off this one as far as stacks go. Marlins in Seattle. Wei Shen versus Giovanni Gallardo. So Seattle started to come alive a little bit here last night. Cano and Cruz had that back-to-back home run. Kyle Seager still struggling. Mitch Haniger still off to a really solid start. Chin is never a guy that you can just say uses the ballpark to his advantage because he has given up homers still in Miami. I think this is just more of a one-off with a couple of the righties. That's about it for Seattle. Marlins side of things, I'm not really looking to stack then. I think that's more one-off territory against Giovanni Gallardo. Just in that ballpark, I'm not looking for a ton of production as far as 8 to 10 runs. I think you can kind of just limit yourself there. Rockies Dodgers, kind of a similar thing here in the late games. Kyle Freeland versus Hyunjin Ryu. Not that Ryu's been good. I think Rockies three run totals a little bit low. I think you're okay with more one-offs in these games, especially given the fact that the Dodgers kind of break up that lineup with a couple guys who can hit righties and a couple guys that can hit lefties and a couple that can't. So I think you're certainly okay with kind of picking one-offs from these games. Same goes with Diamondbacks and Petco out there and Padres out there in Petco. Cozart, Shelby Miller. Shelby Miller has some interest in tonight. Cozart, I definitely don't. Would be an intriguing Diamondback stack. I wouldn't rule against it. I think that would be a sneaky late-night hammer stack. Just against Cozart, not good. Lefties have pretty neutral power that were out in Petco over the last few years. Lamb, Peralta, Pollock, all reasonably cheap. Look at Goldschmidt, too. 4.9, obviously he's your most expensive, but in a stack, I don't think it's a bad option. So overall, I think that if you're looking at a late night stack, Diamondbacks might be the way to go, even in Petco. So let's go wrap things up here. You can head on over to DaveFantasyCafe.com, check out the rest of our great tools and content.